This next story is almost incomprehensible. I just can't believe what's happened on this today. Now, we know Ukraine are pleading with the Australian government to donate its fleet of retired Taipan helicopters. Now, instead of dismantling them and burying them, we are actually going to bury helicopters that are able to be used, and the Ukrainians want them. Ukraine's Chief of Defence Intelligence wrote to the Deputy Prime Minister and Defence Minister Richard Marles last month. Can you believe it? Hasn't even had a reply. The Prime Minister was in Melbourne today. He was asked about this crazy decision, but simply put the blame at the feet of Defence public servants and said we're already doing plenty to help Ukraine. Stefan Romaniw from the Australian Federation of Ukrainian Organisation joins me. This is almost impossible to believe. How disappointed are you?
Steve, good to be with you again. Look, in the first instance, we need to say from the Federation's point of view, we thank the Australian government for standing strong with Ukraine. So in principle, we're standing very, very strong. We're fighting evil because we want a better world. We're calling out for support. Ukraine needs military support now. I've just come back from Ukraine. The military there has asked to pass on that message. Help now because we need it now. Russian attacks are horrendous at the moment. In terms of the Taipan, yes, we put a call out. We believe that these Taipans, these helicopters, would be of great need in Ukraine. I think General Budanov spoke about what they were going to do. For us, it's very, very important that we get the message across to the Australian government. Ukraine needs more help now. In terms of the Taipans, our understanding is, and we've got a little bit of information over the last couple of hours, that they have been dismantled. But these are Taipans, these are helicopters that could have been used in Ukraine. Because Ukraine needs them now. If it's not going to be Taipans, then it needs to be something else. We're on the eve of the second anniversary of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Time to make a commitment to Ukraine, a stronger commitment to Ukraine. We were number one in terms of the non-NATOs. We've dropped to number 6. Time for the Australian government, and we're working with them. Certainly hope that they will provide additional military support and do it with speed.
You and I are not military experts, but I mean, if these things have been dismantled, I mean, is there any argument that it would be impossible to put them back together again? I saw a Special Forces soldier on Sky today saying these Taipans, while there has been some safety issues, are actually a magnificent piece of machinery. And you just, it beggars belief that we're going to pull them apart and bury the things.
Look, as you say, we're not defence experts, but the people who have been advising us have said that they would have been able to be used. They still could be able to be used if they were put together. It's interesting that other countries are using the Taipans. Can they put them together? I'm not quite sure. I'm not an expert on that, but they would be very, very helpful in Ukraine. But again, if it's not going to be the Taipans, then what is it going to be? And it has to happen with speed. The fact that this decision has been made, one of the questions we're asking is in terms of, I know there's a call for an inquiry. How does the Department of Defence come to these conclusions? If you look at the chronological approach of this thing, something just doesn't stack up. And whilst ministers take advice, I think the Department of Defence needs to come clean with some of the questions that are being asked, not just by the Ukrainian community, by defence experts. And those questions relate to when were decisions made, why were they made, why didn't Ukraine get a response? I understand in the last couple of hours there may have been a response, but this has been going on for some time. And I think the Department of Defence needs to come clean on some of these questions that we as taxpayers have a right to know. We're talking about $800 million. So we're not talking about, a couple of million. We're talking about every dollar counts. And now is the time where Ukraine needs that help. So our call out is to the Australian government. We've done a great job up until now. Let's make sure we get back to being number one non-NATO country. Show Ukraine that support. I was in Adelaide a couple of weeks ago when the Operation Kudo soldiers were going over to the UK to train Ukrainian soldiers. That's a great thing, but at the same time, military support. Russian missiles are killing children, blowing up kindergartens, hospitals. Now is the time. I was in Kyiv a couple of weeks ago, 75 missiles and drones over Kyiv overnight, the biggest attack over a short period of time. And those attacks are happening every day. So we need that air support. We need all sort of support that we can get from Australia and our international partners.
Stefan, I hope the Australian government steps up. It's extraordinary to think that it was 2 years ago when that invasion took place. That's Stefan Romaniw there from the Australian Federation of Ukrainian Organisations. Just hope Richard Marles changes his mind.